Hey, hope everyone's doing all right today. Um, I wanted to just kind of come on camera here and give an explanation to what I just discovered. If you watch my most recent video on the melted buildings that were connected to the Tartarian civilization, I began to explain how did this cataclysm happen with this civilization of Tartaria, which was supposed to be a worldwide civilization. Where is the evidence? Where is the proof? Well, you'll notice that a lot of people on the internet are giving some elements of that proof. They're showing what we have come to believe was a mud flood that potentially happened in the 1800s. And you'll be able to see numerous videos of large areas of landmass covered in mud. There are a number of photos where our buildings are literally sitting on um, stories of previous buildings beneath us or the same building, but um, in reality, we're not living on the ground level of some of these buildings. We're probably on the third, or fourth, or fifth floor. And beneath us, down into the ground, is the actual foundation of the original, of the building when it was fully above ground. There's also evidence of a flood that took place in the 1800s. We also had major earthquakes, probably the largest earthquakes I know California has ever seen in the 1800s, but also potentially ever seen in the world or the United States while we had, I think, humans living here that we could actually record in our history. So after reading the One World Tartarians, which I believe is probably one of the best depictions of the Tartarian history, because that has been almost decimated. Any proof of the existence of Tartaria and their kind of illustrious, amazing civilization has literally been scrubbed from our not reality, but from our civilization and society. These old buildings, and I call them buildings from the old world, um, their foundation is sometimes sitting where half of the window is sticking out from the ground level, as if there was more of the building beneath it. And there's a ton of evidence showing that, not to mention the connection of those old buildings and that type of picture. But what I began to say in my last video was there's direct proof that there was some type of electrical heat that destroyed this worldwide civilization. So, what I am trying to communicate today is how did this civilization fall and what happened exactly? I began to say in my last video, and I will show you proof with pictures, that it was done due to um, a, a humongous electrical heat or heated event that literally set everything on fire and literally melted buildings, brick, wall. Regular fire cannot melt the bricks the way I've shown in these videos, the way you'll see in these videos. I thought it was a DEW weapon, a directed energy weapon at first, but it's not. As I explained in my earlier videos, the Tartarians had a worldwide grid where they used where they used free energy by collecting ether from the atmosphere and converting that into electromagnetic energy. They also used water to help transport this. I also stated that the star forts that you see all across our planet were their defense systems and the kind of endpoints of some of their grids, because they used the star forts to create a kind of like an electromagnetic dome or force field or bubble to protect themselves from other civilizations or other civilizations that wanted to potentially attack them. The star forts also processed, I believe, and assisted with the transportation of the energy systems, whatever else they were doing in this like very high level civilization. But along with some of the power stations that they used in Tartaria, all of the old cathedrals, and you'll notice, some of our Capitol buildings, our federal buildings, some of the government buildings, the insane asylums we have, all those massively large, old world 1800 looking buildings are from that civilization. You'll notice we can't really build, we don't build like that, like the way that they look these days. I don't think we're able to do that. Those buildings came from a previous civilization. So if you can imagine, the entire world is the electrical grid. It wasn't a separate electrical wire system that was running the electricity for the use of electrical consumption. It was ran through the bricks, through the houses, through the cathedrals, because you'll notice in all the videos I've been showing, in the videos from some of the YouTube channels that inspired me to do this, all of these mountains, which aren't really mountains, are just melted buildings. And they're buildings that were melted that used bricks. Now, the reason they used bricks is because bricks are like a electrical battery. You can charge them, you could use them just like a battery. We don't, but this is a fact. And I can give you a link to the video that breaks this down in detail. You can just use a brick that's been charged with electricity and attach, some wires to it, and it'll, run one of your devices, and it's a good battery. So all these houses that had ether free energy devices on their ceilings, utilizing domes, utilizing sound cymatics, they would gather the ether from the roofs using the antennas that they would have, metal antennas, domes, and little spires, great for catching the ether. They would catch the ether, then they would run it down, and it would be stored additionally in the bricks that all of the houses were made of. That's also how they were able to kind of pass or transport that electricity from house to house. It just was too easy. All of our cities are built, and from a bird's eye view, they look like a computer chip. So there's a little clip here I want to show you where what happens when you try to heat a computer chip from the bottom. And you're going to see how all these little things on the computer chip begin to melt. And that's exactly what happened to the whole world. And all of the buildings that have been destroyed, that used to look like these old-time buildings, which also are all around the world, that's how that civilization fell. And what I said in my last video was there were some people or beings that somehow managed to get into the Tartarian star forts or their power stations, and they basically reversed the electrical current back into the civilization. So imagine you've got a city and you've got these kind of key areas that collect the electrical energy. These are the power stations, power generators. They collect the energy from the ether, and even some of the local houses will collect them, but the major power stations do. And then they flood that energy through the grid, and it happens very fast, instantly, like the way electricity moves. And you now have an entire world that is that has houses that are all conductors for electric current. All of them, to some degree, can store electrical energy in the bricks that all of these houses were made out of. And then, just that alone, them pushing that electrical current back into the grid and then turning up the energy, exploded and melted everything. And by everything, I mean all these pictures I've shown you. where these mountains are literally melted structure, buildings, and brick sludge. That's why it's red.
Hi guys. This is gonna be a short and easy video where I try to answer some of the most frequently asked questions about the X Factor event and Tartaria. Many people, especially on Instagram, ask me these questions all the time, so here is a video that will answer some of them for you. No time to waste, let's get to it. Number 1. What melted the buildings? The old world seems to be set up like a circuit board on a computer, where the buildings acted as the components on this circuit board. All the buildings had their specific purpose in this plain-wide electric city that once was. From the evidence we have seen, it looks like the meltdown happened because of some kind of electric overload or short-circuiting on this circuit board. This caused the components, aka buildings, to overheat and melt. Most of them got completely fried. There is also a crack in the sky dome. The moon looks scorched and the ocean is floodwaters. This realm is completely damaged by this violent event. Number 2. Are all the mountains melted buildings or just some of them? In my opinion, all of the so-called mountains are indeed melted buildings. Many people believe that some of the so-called mountains are giant tree trunks and even petrified titans. Personally, I do not believe wood and flesh can turn into concrete and what obviously looks like melted red bricks. Land masses are all melted buildings that remained above the floodwaters. Mountains, caves, beaches, continents, and islands. None of these things exist here. It's all building ash. Number 3. When did the meltdown happen? It's difficult to give a very accurate timeline in our so-called history because everything we were told is a lie. But from what we can observe around us, for example how most trees etc. looks very small and young, and how they had grown on top of building melt, which many people call mud. And also how many of the pockets of survival don't look thousands of years old. My guess is that it happened a couple of hundred years ago, possibly less than 400 years ago, but it's just a guess. Number 4. Who did it? I think it was done by the parasitic entities that currently controls us and the New World Order. For some reason, somebody didn't like the heaven on earth that was here in the old world, so they wanted to create hell on earth, and the first thing they had to do was to destroy what already was. From what I'm thinking, the circuit board and the components is already too damaged to be able to short circuit again. Maybe this place don't have enough energy anymore, but who knows, only time will tell. Number 7. How can I learn more about the X Factor event? You can go to my YouTube channel and watch my documentary. Watch my older videos for more evidence. I also do frequent live streams on YouTube, so make sure to hit the bell button. You can also find me on Instagram, where I post a lot of pictures of melted buildings. There is also a YouTube channel named When the Buildings Cried, one named Spartan Red, and another one named The Truth Seek 69. Links to all of this will be below. Hope you got some of the answers you were looking for. Now, go and watch more videos. Happy researching.